Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Indie Comics Review. Every week, I review 3 comic books, indie comic books that is, from recent weeks. If this is the kind of content that you find interesting, then don't forget to hit that like button and the subscribe button. So let's get started right away with our first book, which is The Frontiersman. The Frontiersman, which is from Image Comics. It's written by Patrick Kindlon and illustrated by Marco Ferrari. The Frontiersman #1. The Frontiersman is a retired superhero who lives in a cabin deep in the woods. He's used to fight crime wearing this Davy Crockett coonskin cap. Now he destroys killer robots and makes trips into town for supplies. One day he finds a man sitting in his cabin. That man's been lost in the woods while looking for him. He's not a fan or an old nemesis. He's an activist with an environmental advocacy group who wants to lure the frontiersman out of retirement to be their spokesman. Okay, so they want him to be the face of the revolutionary movement to save the environment. That's pretty much what it is. And at this point, the revolution is still peaceful, but corporate powers are already working to squash that movement. Frontiersman originally balked at this offer, saying he has no interest in being a mascot. But after he drives the guy back to town, he begins to have second thoughts, especially after he speaks to the man who gave the activist his location, his former superhero colleague, who is now a professor that is, Professor Unicell is his name. I really had zero expectations when I bought this book. I was fully prepared to hate it, dismiss it, and move on, but I ended up liking it a lot. It kind of just reeled me in, actually, right from the start with the snappy banter between the frontiersman and his friend Claire about the Unabomber and stuff like that. Not to mention the fact that it brings up a lot of environmental issues. No matter where you live in the world, you are affected by the environment. This is a matter that affects all of us. Things like climate change, deforestation. And this book makes those subjects seem not only important, which they are, but also interesting. Now, there's so many creative teams out there, and there's so many comics in general that I wasn't even aware of this particular creative team. It turns out they made some pretty interesting titles on different imprints, like Black Mask and Aftershock. They've got some other interesting sounding books that I've never heard of that I'm probably going to check out. And the story that in the notes in the back of the book that even reeled me in even more. It just kind of just sealed the deal after reading him talking about what his mission is with this book and everything else. I'm definitely subbed to this book. The next book is He Who Fights with Monsters. This is on the Ablaze imprint, and it is written by Francesco Artabani and illustrated by Werther Deledra. This story begins in Prague, 1945, as the war is coming to a close and the Germans are being expelled from the country and literally labeled with swastikas in the process. Some of the Czechs are getting some revenge on their former occupiers in the streets. When a Russian officer stops some citizens from rendering street justice, he's invited by another citizen to watch his puppet show. The officer is surprisingly interested, to my surprise, and he stays to watch the show. And the show, which the man promises is 100% true and fascinating. The story begins 3 years prior and tells of a doctor who could have left for London where he would have been safe, but instead he stayed behind to help care for and also to help hide the Jews in his community. Risking his own life, the doctor traveled through the war-torn city and delivered food and medicine to Jews and kept them in a safe hideaway that was secure from the Nazis. One of his patients, an old man, tried to convince him that the legend of the Golem is real, and he tells the doctor how he can revive this legendary defender of his people. This story is well written and illustrated, and it seems like maybe it has an interesting take on a familiar story. Like the Frontiersman, I had very few expectations for this book. Um, the premise is good, the plot seems good, but I'm not so 100%. The delivery is good, the pacing is good, the dialogue even seems worthy. But I wonder if this story would be more enjoyable if it were in trade form, where I could just sit down and just digest it all at one time. I worry that over the course of a month and between each issue, I'm probably just going to lose interest, maybe, or just even forget about a lot of the stuff, because there's so many stories swimming around in my head, reading so many titles a month. I'm not saying it's a bad comic. It's just I think it will work better in a trade form. So I guess the old wait for it to come out in the trade thing applies in this case. Not a bad book, but I'll probably wait for the trade. Okay, last book of night is Monster Kill Squad #1. This is from Bad Idea, and it's written by Christos Gage and illustrated by Tomas Giorello. This story is about a special ops team, I guess, maybe. The MKS, Monster Kill Squad, is a small group of agents with special powers. You have the grizzled commander, the supernatural specialists, even the big guy with a mechanical arm that shoots harpoons, just to name a few. Seems Earth experienced an explosion of all kinds of monsters, including killer clowns who turn to spiders and can cloud your mind. Who they're fighting in this issue, come to think of it. It all went to hell when what was believed to be Pandora's box was opened. But now they think it was just the first of many boxes like it that are still opening and constantly releasing every monster you can imagine. The backstory is also like a little 8-pager written by Matt Kent, one of my favorite writers, and drawn by Juan Jose Rip, called The Origin of Deep Fake, which may turn out to be a bigger deal than MKS, quite frankly. I've always said that I've never read a bad book from Bad Idea. This may be the closest thing to that. It's not really bad. It's just kind of meh. This kind of over-the-top machismo. It was done better in Tankers. And at least in Tankers, they kind of made fun of it, whereas here they just kind of embrace it. I mean, sure, there are a lot of people who would probably just love to watch, roided up dudes just blast clown guts all over the place. But maybe I just expected more from Bad Idea. It's got the usual great cover stock, great paper quality, great artwork, and that's what you expect from Bad Idea. But I can get this story pretty much anywhere else, and probably better from a lot of different creators. I just expected a lot more from Bad Idea. So for $7, I would definitely recommend a pass on this book. So that's it for this Indie Comics review. Next week, there's some, unlike this week, there's probably a lot of good books on the horizon. There's one called 10 Years to Death. That's from Aftershock. It's a one-shot. It's about based, I think, on some true events. They always say based on true events, but I think this is probably fictionalized to some degree. I don't know, but it looks pretty good. There's also from Titan, there's Gun Honey. There's some good covers on that, like a spy thriller. There is the one called Silence, and it is by but it's about a comic book creator. So I'm all for reading anything by a comic book creator or about a comic book creator. And then there's something called the Horn Island Trilogy, which is about zombies in Mississippi. And say no more. What's not to love there? So a lot of good stuff coming up next week. So there's not going to be any shortage of material whatsoever for next week's Indie Comics review. So that's it for now. Don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and turn notifications on so you know when I'm making another video. So until next time, I'll see you guys in the funny papers. Hey, don't forget to subscribe and leave a thumbs up.